Just a week after the Monaco Grand Prix, which of course saw the most boring, chaotic race happen, we now have the 2026 Barcelona Grand Prix, the first Spain race of the year. Heading into this one, I feel like there's a lot of hype, at least with the seasoned F1 fans. This track is the most basic circuit you could think of. It's like asking ChatGPT to generate you a circuit. Yep, there's a straight, yep, there's some slow speeds, medium speeds, high speeds. Because the track is so basic and default setting vibes, teams love bringing their upgrades here, which of course can affect the performance standings. And what would you know? Teams have announced a buttload of upgrades to come. It's nowhere near the amount and size of Miami, but the second biggest of the season, and personally, I think we could see actual competition this week. Will a Mercedes car still win? Yeah, of course, but what matters is how we get there, and as long as the drivers had to be on their toes, I am going to be a happy camper. Anyways, with teams potentially getting into the mix, Mercedes cannot afford to let up for the title, which I know what you may be thinking. Kimi Antonelli is 67 points ahead in the standings. I think that is cause for some leeway. And yes, you are right, but Max Verstappen was 30 plus points ahead of Lewis heading to Silverstone, and by the summer break, which was only a one more round at Hungary, Max was P2 in the standings again. Things can shift very quickly in the title situation is my point. Don't say it's over until it's over. Despite that though, Kimi Antonelli winning 5 on the bounce is just such class. To think there were people in 2024 saying how Paul Aron should have been promoted because he was doing better in F2 than Kimi was. This is why I tell you kids, don't believe the junior formulas. If they were as representative as people say, Behrman will be nowhere near F1 because he sucked in F2. Obviously, he didn't deserve Haas, which speaking of the junior formulas, FP1 is looking pretty stacked with rookies ready to debut for the first time in an F1 car. So factor in how some of these drivers could be on the back foot because of them having to relinquish their seat for a session, plus a track that is bound to see diabolical levels of battery shenanigans. Hell is very likely to be expected for Sunday. Well, that or just some mediocre nonsense, which hey, mediocre don't mean bad particularly. So let's see how this weekend actually panned out by recapping it and finding some winners and losers. Subscribe if dice is not a real word, and let's get to quacking now.
See those clouds up in the corner? That's where the rain is coming from.
As always, we have the recap to go through first, and starting on Thursday, the floodgates of hell have opened. But I don't like beginning with negativity, so let's begin with something positive. We have a fuck ton of rookies in FP1 like mentioned previously. We have Leo Fornaroli, alleged F3 and F2 champion in the McLaren, Paul Aron in the Audi, Dino Beganovic in the Ferrari, Iwasa in the Red Bull, Vessi in the Mercedes, Browning in the Williams, and Colton Herta in the Cadillac. I, along with many people I hope, love these mandated rookie sessions since it's always nice to see which drivers could potentially drive for a team in the near future, especially regarding Herta, who seems linked to Caddy already for either 2027 or 28. So positivity aside, now to address the floodgates of hell being open since we have an update on the results from Monaco. That race saw Kimi winning from Lewis Hamilton behind, while in P3, classified was Isaac Hadjar. However, on the road was Pierre Gasly, but dropped down to about 6th or 7th place thanks to 2 5-second time penalties. Alpine were like, your pit sensors for calculating speed was fucked. We don't deserve the penalty despite everyone else serving theirs. And the FIA listened. Alpine's writer review was approved, and ultimately, their podium was reinstated by race control, demoting Isaac back down to 4th. Normally, no one would care. This is not the first time something like this has happened, but it also kinda is. See, everyone got penalties in Monaco for speeding in the pit lane, and it jumbled up the entire grid. I mean, Russell had to serve a drive-through penalty for the same offense, so if Gasly's penalty was deemed a mistake, then isn't everyone else's kinda also a mistake? If Gasly was not speeding in the pit lane, or rather, the sensors were fucked which mistook him for doing so, then everyone else suffered the same thing as him and such should have their penalties removed. But the FIA is like, nah, I don't really feel like it, and now everyone is pissed, and honestly, rightfully so. You can't say that out of 8 people who got in trouble, one of them gets a pass despite doing the same offense as the other 7. It's not fair to them, and the FIA were honestly better off doing nothing and telling the other teams to cope, because at least they're all in the same predicament now. Now everything is even more messier, and all I have to say is, classic FIA. Anyways, enough drama talk. You're here for the session, so let's see how they went, beginning with the Friday practice sessions. FP1 begins the race weekend like always, and Luke Browning, who was slated to drive for Williams in the session, wasn't able to due to the car getting cold feet. As for the other rookies, they would actually do pretty good, with my standout being Paul Aron finishing 6th in the Audi. Other than the rookies though, it's FP1, so of course nothing crazy cool happened in the sessions, with the final results showing Russell as the fastest, but not without some McLarens being close. FP2 however would feature some crazy wacky cool moments, ironically with the regular drivers back in, such as Mercedes maybe not looking too hot. They're struggling for balance here and there, which allowed the McLaren pair to look pretty fast so far this weekend. Another team who looks to be struggling a bit is Ferrari, who after dropping another quote, just don't look like they have it, which is pretty ironic too, considering these guys blew a load on their upgrades this week, and Lord help me if it's truly a failure. Red Bull also looks shit, so for the first time this season probably, McLaren actually look kinda good. Further behind, Checo does his best Mazepin impression and Albon just gives up. So heading into Saturday, it is looking pretty interesting. Many teams are struggling for balance, which means they desperately need FP3 to be better. Otherwise, we could have a mixed up grid for Sunday. So let's see if that could happen by checking out Saturday's FP3 and qualifying sessions. Ferrari, I swear to fucking God. FP3 was typical, which means nothing happened in it except for George Russell once again looking like the leading Mercedes car, while Kimi Antonelli does seem to have his struggles finally. So it begins. Dooming aside, now we have qualifying, and around this track, let's lower our expectations looking at previous years. Q1 begins and literally nothing happened, which maybe Aston took literal since they are 1 second off the pace, from Cadillac of Bottas in 20th, which is only made worse by Stroll going on the gravel and embarrassing them even more. Q2 saw nothing happen as per usual, and heading into Q3, it seems like we have a fight for pole position between the Mercedes and Ferrari. However, Merc do look to have the upper hand. So the session begins, and now the pole fight is between the two Mercs and Lewis. Why not Charles anymore? Take a guess. Reminder, I made a video about this a couple days ago, so give that a watch. Shameless plug aside, the red flag for the crash was lifted, and now we have a fight for pole again. Antonelli sets the first benchmark time at a 1:14.9 before George Russell drops his nuts on Kimi with a 1:14.6, and despite late pressure from Max and especially Lewis, who is just 600ths behind George in second, Russell secures the pole position and is looking ready for the race win on Sunday. So all that's left to ask is, will that happen, or will we get a reverse 2016 moment where two Mercedes crash with Lewis being the one winning? Let us see. The race begins, and with the tires different between the top two, ain't shit happens since George kept the lead while the top 5 don't move at all. Someone who did move was Isaac Hadjar. Not move up though, he lost a bazillion places and now has to do a good old Checo recovery race. Pit stops already happening since the top 2 pit, as well with many behind. The midfield is also looking pretty good, and yeah, there's just some good old racing. So despite the race coming down, it's not boring since the top 4 are within 2 seconds of each other and the midfield is in hell. So someone has to break for the second stops, and Lewis is the one that does by pitting and going aggressive, leaving the Mercedes in a big old juicy pickle. And because Lewis relinquished second, Antonelli is unleashed, who immediately closes up to Russell, and now we have a fight for the lead while Lewis is setting purple sectors in 5th. Lando pits now, which means the Mercs start theirs with Russell and then Kimi, and now we have to see what Lewis has towards the end of the race after he pits for his 3rd stop. But VSC is out now for Alonso, who just gave up, and this could be big for Lewis if he has time to take the cheap stop, which he just does, and is now on fresh tires in the lead while George is hounded by Kimi. Breathe in, breathe out. Kimi Antonelli is able to overtake George Russell, but not even 1 lap later loses power as George takes the advantage now. Oh boy. So the VSC is out and the race ends under yellows, and who is the one that crosses the line first? Sir Lewis Hamilton at the age of 41. Simply the best. VSC or not, Lewis had it secured, and man, I have not been this happy since Monza 2024. Just wow, man. Now for the winners and losers, and as always, losers first, and I begin with, you guessed it, Aston motherfucking Martin, who are something now I have lost count. One thing is for sure though, from the winners and losers of Shakedown to preseason testing to every single one of these Grand Prix, Aston have been losers, and man, it's just not funny anymore. By the way, it is 10 for 10 now, so congratulations, I guess. Anyways, Aston were once again dog shit. And it sucks too because, not like it was likely, but Aston got a point last weekend at Monaco, and despite the car not deserving that, maybe there could be some supernatural force that propels them to similar enough heights, especially in front of Fernando's home audience for the final time potentially. But nah, both Aston's 21st and 22nd, 1 second away from the Cadillac in qualifying, and a race that is best not discussed. Next is Esteban Ocon, who may be sent to the guillotine soon. I mean, my god, every race weekend this year, bro. If Ollie doesn't have some issue with the car, whether it be technical like in Monaco or near death in Japan, Ollie will absolutely be the lead Haas driver. It's just not acceptable for Esteban, not with his years of experience and clear pace that he has shown to have. I fear that even if Esteban turns his year around starting the next weekend, he could still end up fired since Ollie will likely stay close enough to him, which is still bad considering Ollie came out of the womb last year. It's sad, but Esteban had his chance, and I fear it is mighty over for him now. Next is Williams, who are just so damn confusing this season. One weekend they'll be in the upper midfield right there to score points, and then the very next one they're getting done so hard by the other midfield teams and nowhere near the points. Monaco, despite Sainz getting murdered, was pretty good for the team since they were bound to get double points. Canada was also not even that bad for them, so as we headed into this one, it seemed like nothing would change much, but they were not only mid, but just bad. I really don't know what to make of Williams this season so far. I'm just glad I ain't a fan of them because the confusing results would have killed me by now. Next is Charlie Kirk. I mean, you know I'm gonna say, I literally made a video about this a couple days ago. Charles just doesn't have it anymore. What is it? The mentality. When watching Charles drive, I get sad since I don't see the same driver I saw back in 2019. Sure, he still drives fast, but what's the use if he crashes or after every single race weekend always complains about something? Ferrari is the only team where shit like this happens, and now Charles is starting to become a driver where shit like this only happens. They are a perfect match for each other, and Charles has no one else to blame but himself. But hey, it could be worse. At least he's running his races on Saturday now instead of Sunday. But yeah, Charles has no interest in saving his career, so let him be, I say. Finally, I have McLaren. I am a disappointed parent. I don't love McLaren, as you guys know, but regardless, I had high hopes for them this weekend. Given everything we know about their car, I would say they looked really poised to take a big result. Even looking at prior years, they have always been fast around here, and yeah, a big result was expected, but nothing really came of it as they just didn't progress much from past weekends this year. And if I were Lando and Oscar, I would be pissed since they started the new part of the season great in Miami, but nothing has come of it since. By this point, I'm confident McLaren are no longer in any sort of title fight contention, but regardless, they really should have more podiums by now. Unreliability didn't even affect them this weekend, so yeah, just disappointed in you. Now for the mid runners of the weekend, and I choose Red Bull. Red Bull has just been so mid all year long, and it doubly sucks, because with Hadjar, he's doing good enough, like nothing is offensive there. What's offensive is Max, because it is clear the guy is so held back by the Red Bull car, and it really sucks. Qualifying could have been so much better if we had a raging Max Verstappen in the mix, and while he could be in a sector or two, he just doesn't have the car to go all the way. And in the race, he faces too many troubles in it to make an impact, and yeah, unless Red Bull are at a favorite track, they will be cursed to P5, P8 territory. Now for the winners, and let's begin with, of course, Lewis Hamilton, who we already mentioned. Lewis, unlike another driver, was able to dig deep in the Ferrari and find the newfound pace it has. Engine is still very dog shit, but at least the car has gotten better and was able to really pressure the two Mercs all race long. In qualifying, he set a monster lap out of nowhere that had he kept it a bit more tidy in the first sector, could have been on pole, and in the race, he was very competitive with the Mercedes and of course, was able to win the race, VSC or not. Yeah, I said it. I'm just really glad Lewis is in his groove again, since when Lewis is driving 100%, it's just such beautiful driving. Austria should be another good one, so let's see if his teammate can actually be a factor in this one. Next is Mercedes. As always, we could keep this short since you know why they're here. Best car, fast drivers, you know the story now. However, they did face a challenge this week from the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, who has been on stellar form as of late. Merck still almost won, but this time if they did, it would have been with George Russell, who regardless of a win or not, finally is able to bounce back. George had a weekend that he's had for a while now. He looks fast and is fast, so why is this result different from, say, Canada? You know why. Car problems were not present for George this time, and he was finally able to nab a result for the team for the first time since China, I believe. Kimi was good too, though. Don't get it twisted, even if his engine blew up. Austria should be a spicy fight, so I'm already hyped for that one. Next is Hülkenberg, who finally gave Audi some hope. Basically, since the first 3 rounds, Audi have been nowhere doing nothing, which I guess it's fine since they're a new team, but you can't show promise immediately and then backtrack on that. Thankfully, Audi did look somewhat good again around here, especially in the hands of Nico Hülkenberg, who was able to make the Audi do something for once. Hulk was pretty good this weekend and proving to us all that Unk absolutely still has it. I have been very vocal in how I think Nico will retire at the end of this year, and while I still think the same, at least he could go out with a bang. He of course ultimately retired, but for the parts of the race he did do, he was in the points, and you could only assume that would have translated in the result. Damn you, Audi engine. This spot at Audi will be interesting regardless, so let's see how it develops over the year. Finally, I have Liam Lawson, who once again was good. Liam has been having a great season so far since he was once again in Q3 and in the points. Liam has been proving his haters wrong this year, and thank fucking God. I love Liam, as you guys would know, since I have been in the hog defending him since 2024, and despite his rocky relationship with Checo, I am not a parasocial Twitter degenerate and am thus able to separate myself from people who don't know me. I love rooting for Liam since I think he is one of the best rookie talents I have watched, so to see him doing so well in F1 now, it makes me proud. However, he is going to have to show more regardless, since this could be natural developments instead of talent showing. I mean, look at Yuki for example. So come on Liam, make Ducky proud. Now let's check out my Dick and Bingus from the preview. My quality predicts were a bit out of order, but not too bad. My race predictions were dead wrong, but like, this is not my fault, I swear. My random prediction was wrong, thankfully, for McLaren's sake. Your predictions were super duper wrong as per usual. And finally, my bingo card is without an update. So those were my winners and losers from Barcelona. Now we just have a 1-week break until we arrive at the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. That race is always a guaranteed banger every year, so you best believe we'll be back for that weekend. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to Amarillo Vlog for the continued support, and make sure to join if you want cool benefits as well as just helping me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like and subscribe since it really helps me out. Make sure to let me know in the comments what your winners and losers are, and as always, have an amazing day.
Good winner for the duck.